Sign of the times.
Coach, and then go to your questions.
All right, I'll start first by congratulating the women's volleyball team. I thought that was awesome on Saturday. I was home. I did not go to the game. My daughter shamed me, but we watched it together as a family and loved it. So true grit and competitiveness was pretty awesome to see. And so hopefully we can match their intensity this Saturday. As we move forward, just a couple injury updates. We're a pretty beat-up team right now. Ethan Piper is done for the year. He'll have knee surgery. Turner Corcoran is done for the year. He'll have foot surgery. Nuri's in surgery right now. Nuri will be out for probably 1 to 2 weeks. So we'll have to have some guys step up. So with that, Billy Kemp will be out multiple weeks with an MCL sprain. And I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. That's really it. So Tom will be day by day. So we're not, Tom Hill's kind of superhuman healing powers. I'm sure Tom will be back. Probably be at practice tomorrow, but he'll be day to day. So. With that being said, I thought in the last game, a lot of guys stepped up when their number was called. I thought Justin Evans-Jenkins came in both at guard and then at center. Henry Lutovsky is a guy that's been a starter for us at guard. Teddy Prohaska is a guy that's been waiting his turn. So we have lots of guys who started games here on the offensive line. Jaden Doss and some of the other young receivers, they obviously stepped up. Tristan Alvano stepped up. So I expect them to step up, and I expect our veteran players to play their best football. And that's what happened on Saturday. I know Nash people were talking, I thought when you watch tape, Nash played great, and Ty Robinson was absolutely dominant. And so we'll need those guys to play well. We'll need other guys to step up, and there's a standard here, and everyone has to meet the standard. So I know you guys are all trying to tweet that news out, so I'll give you a second, and then wait and hear what you have to say.
Is there any prevailing theme to any of these, or are they just freak fluke things that are all happening at once?
Yeah, they're all contact injuries. You get your foot stepped on. Ethan. I don't know if you've seen the play, but the guy gets blocked into Ethan. He hits him from the front. So sometimes some of our guys wear knee braces to prevent getting hit from the side, but he gets hit from the front and dislocates his knee. He's gonna have a major surgery. So my heart is with Ethan. I can tell you that. There's no one more a Cornhusker than him. And so, he's got a long road ahead, but he's a tough guy. Billy gets, kind of guy kind of just bumps into him, hits his knee. So they've pretty much all been contact injuries. They've pretty much all been on the offensive side. So, as we always do, we get to the offseason, we'll study everything and see if there's something we can do better. But it's obviously a rash of injuries on offense.
How far has Teddy come in the last 3-4 weeks as that sort of extra tackle, and what are your expectations for him as he maybe slides into where Turner's at?
Yeah, I think Teddy's a starter for us. Teddy can absolutely play at a super high level. He's had the benefit of all these weeks of practice, of getting his feet underneath him. Got some reps in the Michigan game. He wasn't quite to full speed yet at the Michigan game. He's to full speed now. That knee's healthy. And he's ready to go. So, I love those guys. Those are great guys, Turner and Pipe, that left side of that line. But Teddy's OU. He'll be ready to go. I think again, just getting that sort of that rep as the jumbo tight end has helped him, and then he's gotten a lot of reps in practice. So Teddy will play really well for us.
Have you ever had a year where one side of the ball's been hit with injuries like?
Never. Yeah, I've never had anything close to this. So, but you know what? We press on. There's no sadness in me. Like there's sadness for my guys. I love those guys. I couldn't have even thought of having another receiver go down. But. And this is not from a football perspective, when we walk out on the field on this coming Saturday, all but 2 guys will be underclassmen on the offense. So those guys are learning by fire. You know what I mean? And you know what? When given a chance, Malachi Coleman went and made a play. When given a chance, Emmett Johnson went and made a play. When given a chance, Justin went out and played well. When given a chance, Jalen Lloyd has made plays. When given a chance, so we have enough players to win with, and we got guys who can help us. So we'll just have to continue to step up.
How much does some of the injuries affect maybe just the redshirt conversations with guys? Are those still ongoing, or most of those?
Oh yeah. The players' careers always come first. That's maybe different here than other places, but that's why I think most guys will appreciate that in the long run. And we have, like I said, I hope you guys see what I say. I really mean. I told you, we have some good guys that are redshirting, like James Williams. I wasn't lying, right? We've got some good players just sitting there waiting their turns. Quentin Ives got in last game. I was hoping for a bigger role. Only got a player or two. But Quentin's ready to go. But, my plan is, if we can, to redshirtize guys. This might affect Jaden Doss, depending on how fast Billy comes back, because Jaden's now played in 2 games. But I think Jaden's going to play. So if you're going to go out there and play 50, 60 snaps, then to me it's worth playing in 5 or 6 games, 7 games. But I'm not going to use a guy up for 10 plays and use a whole year up on him. I'm going to do my best. So each guy's unique, each guy's different. On the offensive line, we have some really good young O-linemen that we've been redshirting, and Sam Sledge and Gunnar Gatula. Gunnar was there with us in the spring. Gunnar can play. And so those guys are coming up on, hey, they've got 4 games, so they'll be ready in the jumbo tight end and the field goal team. Jacob Hood is back and been playing. Tyler Canuck we brought in. So those guys, those guys have really come along. And again, when we got here and Coach Osborne and Coach Solich and those guys talked about, the 2 platoon practices and all that, which we've done some of in the past, just doing a little bit more of it. I think it's going to pay off right now for us.
Coach, you never want to see it because of injuries, but how can you speak to the benefit of getting these younger guys these reps, going into the long term?
Oh yes, I mean it's. I did this at Baylor and Temple for different reasons, right? The older guys weren't bought in, so I played all the young players, and 3 years later they took their lumps. 3 years later they were champions. Our older players fight for us and believe in what we're doing. So, but as they've gotten banged up, other guys step up. So, I think the biggest thing is we have a standard, and it was not the standard on offense last Saturday, putting the ball on the ground that many times. I don't care about the score, as I've told you guys. But I do care about the execution. I told the team that was one of the best wins I've been a part of. But that was certainly not the best performance I've been a part of, if that makes sense. So, we can't. It's kind of, when you go back and look at it, right? Think about the first 3 drives. 4 of the first 6 plays or 3 of the first 6 plays are balls on the ground. It's the turnover, the balls on the ground. All of a sudden we settle down. The next 2 drives we go down, we score. We're going to have to grow up a little bit, on offense this week in terms of taking care of the ball and making the plays that are available to us, because the young players on defense are getting that done. And so the young players on offense can get that done, and I have full confidence. This is the challenge this week: is hey, let's take care of the football. This Purdue team that we're facing, they're going to put pressure on you. They're going to come after you. Coach Walters is a defensive mastermind. They've had a bye week. When you come off of a bye week, all of a sudden we go out against Northwestern and they're in tackle over, and they're doing all these different things on offense. They're doing different things on defense. We're facing another team coming off a bye week. When you have a young team, they have to be able to adjust quickly. We have a lot in front of us, so we cannot put the ball on the ground. We have to protect the football and battle it out to the very last play of the game.
Coach Satterfield called a couple first down passes. One of them was the interception to start the game. Heinrich missed another one when it was on the bootleg, but on the one where they had to have a touchdown, he hit it. What maybe did he not do, Heinrich, on those first 2 throws that he was able to successfully do on the touchdown pass?
Yeah, the first play is either an explosive play or a touchdown, right? So, I just think I think sometimes as you go through the ascent of a young quarterback, you go out there early on and you just start to play. I mean, I was taught this by June Jones, so this isn't like Matt Rhule's theory, okay? You just go out there, you just kind of play, and you play on instinct. Then you have some success, and so you start trying to be like, oh, okay. You start trying to be, I'm going to do this versus this coverage. I'm going to do this, and you start seeing all these things, and you start to play slow, and then you get through that, and you start to play fast again. He was just too slow. I mean, that guy Fedoni's open, but Borkacher on the corner and go is wide open down. We're going to start the game off with a touchdown, but we rushed. We saw too much, and so I think that showed up a lot during the game. I mean, we left a lot of things out there, way too much out there. To win a Big Ten game. So I think as the game settled on, we hit that one. I mean, again, Malachi's first progression, we just played the play and hit it. But there were some plays that were there that I think we absolutely should hit, have to hit. And, I think we're at the point for me as a coach where it's like, hey, we're going to be more aggressive. We're going to have to push the ball down the field a little bit. Now, obviously this week's a new week. We have some guys down. We have to see who's healthy and who's ready to go. But that was the thought process last week. I just think Heinrich, he can make those plays. He just has to slow down. But that is what happens. They play off instinct. Then they start coming in and watching tape and starting to see the coverages. And whereas early on they were just going 1, 2, 3, now they're like, well, I see the mic, and they start trying to be more. And then all of a sudden they finally hit a point where they relax and they just play. And so Heinrich, this is a good week to try to do that.
Hey, what was Nick's availability center Henrich? I mean, he only played a few plays for you guys. Was he
Yeah,
healthy?
yeah, he's just been a little bit banged up, and so Nick is a downhill, violent, physical run defender that can play the pass as well, but just not just a little banged up. So I think we kind of went with a little bit more of Javen and those guys. So just more a coach's decision, and hoping that Nick would come through that game. And because we held him on Wednesday night's practice, get through that game, be available as needed, and hopefully be a little bit more healthy this week, kind of as we move forward. So, Nick's coming off a knee, he banged his shoulder up in the Illinois game. He's just a veteran player who's played a lot of football, and he's a little banged up. So, it's a heart and soul of the team. But that was just more probably the game and his health than anything else.
Is there anything else Vince Scott went out to in the second half? I assume he's okay. He's okay.
Yeah. Ben practiced last night. We expect Ben to play.
How does the you guys have had this mentality on the offensive line with Rhule all through the offseason that these guys were such a tight group and spent all their time together. Now that they're facing this kind of a situation, kind of similar to your wide receivers, how does that mentality help when you have to put in guys like Teddy and Henry and Justin into the lineup?
Yeah, because they play for each other. So. I texted Turner and I texted Pipe on Saturday night, and both guys with devastating season-ending, potentially surgical for Turner, surgical for Piper injuries. Both guys were talking about the impact they were going to have on the young players and how they wanted to get back out there. A lot of guys get injured and they go to treatment. You don't really see them in meetings quite as much, and I try to make them go to meetings, but sometimes it's, hey, I can get to the rehab guy here, so there's some things we do medically. I walked by the O-line room yesterday and I see the crutches outside the meeting room from Turner. And I can't say enough about that. So Turner's going to be right there with the guys, and Pipe's going to be right there with the guys. And all along I've said when they've been under scrutiny, I've always said I think we should be pretty thankful for these guys that are out there battling. We'll be thankful for them now, and I'm thankful for the backups that are now starters, that the way they've prepared, because it has not been perfect. They've won 4 out of their last 5. Go back to last year's Illinois game. What was it? We have 170, 165 yards rushing in this game. It's not perfect, but these guys fight. They fight for the University of Nebraska, and so I can't say enough about when Justin went in, what he did. I thought Justin played well, and Canucks ready, Lutovsky's ready. We got a lot of guards that can go in and play.
What was Nuri's injury again?
I don't want to say that right now, just because I haven't talked to him. I'm sorry, but he should be back in 2 weeks. We hope.
You had said everybody else. So
Yeah, because they're out for the year. I just haven't talked to Nuri. That's the only reason why.
Is there a plan for Sam?
I'm sorry, guys.
Go ahead, Sean.
Sam Sledge.
Don't you guys work? This was like
Sam Sledge. What's his status? Could you get him on there for 4 games down the stretch here late?
That's been the plan, right? Hey, as needed. He would still be in that. Hey, I'm a backup. I'm in the backup role. He wouldn't be rotating in or anything like that yet. Gunnar would be in that same role, but. When you start thinking about the PAT field goal team, when you start thinking about the extra tight ends, we like to get into we were in that game. We were in that game, and we had 2 things we wanted to do. We wanted to get into big 14 personnel, no receivers, and do some special things. And we wanted to feature Billy. And all of a sudden, Billy's out, and the 14 personnel stuff's out. So having Gunnar, having Sam available in those areas, I think could be really good for us. And giving Jaden a full week of knowing, hey, I'm the slot, will help us a ton.
Where's the air raid going? Is there anything in particular that you've seen from the front 6, front 7 that has impressed you on defense?
From ours?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when they play aggressively, when they're getting off and attacking, that's happened in pretty much every game, but like 1 or 2. We have guys who can rush off the edge. When it's a 4-man rush, sometimes the quarterback has stepped up. Going to that 5-man rush in the last game allowed allowed us to have 5 one-on-ones. So it was a great, I think that was, Coop suggested that, and Tony went with it. That's what makes Tony so good. Like, he listens to everybody, and that allowed us to have 5 one-on-ones. But I just think we play really aggressively. The guys play fast. I don't ever notice when someone else is in, if that makes sense. Like I don't sit there and say, well, why is Ty out? Like, Rhule goes in, he runs a line movement. He's a nose tackle who runs a movement outside. He gets a counter at him, and he spills it. Like, you couldn't get that done if you had me begged, but Rue does it, right? Riley Van Poppel, as a freshman's out there getting 10 to 12 plays every game. We just have a lot of guys we can rotate in there and play. And so, when you have MJ and Prince as the jacks, when you have, 4 or 5 inside backers you trust, guys can play fast. They can compete against each other to get more reps, and they hit the movements and they execute the movements. So Lenhart's finally healthy, which is a big thing for us. Chief has given us good reps. I think a guy that's really made a jump in the last 2 weeks to me is Blaze Gunnarsson. He's played a lot of football, but he's always kind of been nicked up in the past, and now he's healthy and he's just getting extended weeks, and he's finding his confidence. So we have a lot of guys, Steve, that can play, and I think we can cut them loose. Now this week presents a whole unique challenge in that Hudson Card. He was a Division I wide receiver if he wanted to be. I watched him in high school. He's so athletic. So now some of the things we've been letting some guys out of the pocket and we run them down, you're not running Hudson down. So we have to do some different things this week versus this offense. And, Graham Harrell's a great offensive coordinator. He will find a way to run the football. And what we found out last week was, like Northwestern, which was last in the Big Ten in rushing off a bye week, was going to find a way to run the football against us, and they did. They had 135 yards. Completely unrelated, but I didn't say this after the game. If, when I say, like, hey, would have lost the game earlier in the year, and I think you maybe asked me, what do you mean? Like, or maybe someone asked me what I mean. I've been on a lot of teams where, like, those runs break and Omar Brown doesn't run the guy down. Or Malcolm gets beat, right? And a lot of times I've seen that guy turn and look at the safety like this, and the ball walks in for a touchdown, and that's losing teams. And that's why when I say, like, I don't care about the score, I care about what the film looks, I want to win the game. But when I see that, I'm like, man, the fact that Malcolm got beat and didn't feel sorry for himself and ran it down and got the guy tackled at the 8-yard line, then we held him to a field goal, that's the winning football. Can the defense continue to do the defense will have to do it more this week with the amount of injuries on offense. The special teams have to do it more this week. So we can't start to go like this. We have to continue to go like this and just say we're playing as the Huskers. So that's a lot of things I said. But I just think they play aggressively. They play together, and we throw a lot of waves at people.
Hey, Matt, how pervasive is sign stealing in your experience?
Sign stealing happens every game. There's nothing wrong with teams over there looking over trying to steal our signs. There's nothing wrong with us trying to look at their signs. It's why you should have mics in the helmets, right? Like, all these coaches that vote against it every year is because they don't want to teach their quarterback. In the NFL, quarterback goes out there with 3 play calls because if I see the free safety's foot like that, it might be one high. I'm going to check to this play. But you get to college and you're watching a game on a Tuesday night, and they got the signal and they're just calling a play. So that's what makes college football, to me. That's why they score maybe more points. But it's also why the kids are less prepared. So that's why there should be 100% should be. We could get rid of all the stupid signs on the sidelines, and we could get pictures of, rock stars and all that stuff, and we could just play football the way it was meant to be. You go to a high school game, there's technology on the sideline. You go to an NFL game, there's technology on the sideline. You go to the college, there's nothing. Like, if you don't think, so that it should be that. But that's sign stealing. That's not. I would not carry that over to going and filming someone else's practices or something like that, or filming someone else's games. That's completely something different. And I'm not saying that happened, but I think what's wrong partly in our society right now sometimes is we say someone does something against the rules, and sports need rules, right? Sports need rules to keep competitive balance. And when someone does something against the rules, we say, well, should that really even be a rule? And it is the rule. That's the rule, right? Like, I didn't get to play we don't get 5 downs. But in-game, stealing of signs. When I play against somebody and I know that person has friends on the next staff, I know if they have our signs, they're having it the next week. That's all part of the game, and you have to do what you do. We should absolutely have technology, but if there's a rule, the rule should be followed. And I'm not speaking about what's happening right now because I don't know what happened. But if that is happening somewhere, it's completely, completely wrong.
When you played Michigan, did you have any suspicions that there was more than the usual amount of knowledge on their side?
No one from the Big Ten or NCAA has asked me anything yet, so I'm not going to probably comment on anything like that. I would never want to cast shade at somebody else going through a hard time. I don't know anything.
You said Ty was dominant. He had 1 tackle, so what does dominant look like in Ty Robinson's case?
Just, I mean, other guys sometimes get sacks because he runs up the field, makes the quarterback run for his life. I mean, on the last sack of the game, he beats the guy one-on-one. He was absolutely dominant in my mind. By far Ty's best game. The type of game that, that moves you up a couple rounds in the draft. I thought he looked excellent. I always go back to the tape, not the stat line. Like at the end of the game, I'm always when I'm walking out of the media room and I see Nash there, I'm like, they picked you, huh? And he's like, yeah, you had 2.5 sacks. I can't even tell that sometimes during the game, what's happening. But when I watch the tape, I just think Ty hit his stride. And that doesn't mean Nash. I mean, they're both hitting their stride. And then Cam comes in, and then Jamari's playing well. But I think Ty's someone that the other team has to take account of when he plays.
What's your plan at running back? You see it kind of working out like you did this past week with the rotation of guys spectrum?
Yeah, I think it's one of those deals where Emmett can kind of do everything for us, and Emmett had some good plays for us. Anthony held onto the ball. Anthony had a great run on a run. Josh Fleeks is a guy that we want to continue to get in the game. So I think all three of those guys are going to continue to play. And I'd like to have more plays. I'd like to have more tailback runs. So hopefully we can continue to get those guys more involved. But it'll be all three of those guys, pending a good week of practice and pending ball security.
I'd like to go to those jumbo packages. Now you got 3 offensive linemen out. Billy's a guy that you guys put a lot of the offensive game plan with. Now he's out. How do you anticipate your offense kind of changing in these next couple of weeks to make up for those losses?
Yeah, we're going to have to find the players we have and find what they do well and put them out there. Each week, this is a man-to-man defense. This is a bear defense that's highly active. Pressure's a lot different than Illinois. Same sort of structure, but different than Illinois. So. It brings unique challenges, but to me, it's about, hey, who are the players that we have and what can they do? And I think that's on both sides of the ball and on special teams. We're always trying to highlight our players and at the same time understanding that each defense brings things that we have to be prepared for, and they have a lot that we have to be prepared for. So getting into specifics of it, I can't say right now. It's Monday, but as we get closer during the week, I think we'll have a good plan.
Back to the NFL thing, you've been on both sides of this now. What do NFL coaches appreciate in terms of feedback from college coaches, and what do you like to give them in terms of when you're talking about your players and being honest about what they can and can't do?
Yeah, they don't really need no one really wants as a college coach, my football evaluation of them as a football player because they see that themselves, right? They don't need me to tell them how fast they are. I think at the end of the day, they really want to know, like, hey, what's his character like? What's his football character like? Meaning practice habits, taking care of his body. Is he going to be a pro? What's his how's he going to take care of his body? How's he going to learn? Will he play special teams? The good thing for me is because I had so many guys at like Temple and Baylor that kind of went on, and I had a lot of guys that were like late draft picks or free agents that have made it a long time because they were truly professional. When a guy comes in and says, like, hey, tell me about Quentin Newsome, I'm like, hey, he reminds me a lot of Nate. He reminds me a lot of Nate Hairston. He reminds me a lot of Tavon Young. They can put those projections together. But really, what they want from me is they want to know that football character, that note taking, that learning. That's the biggest thing at that level. If a guy's a first or second round pick, that's one thing. When you got the 3 down, it's tell me about these. And as I tell our guys, I'm going to be honest, completely transparent, because if I lie about one, I'm lying about them all, right? And then they'll never listen to me again. So, but we have great guys, and I think when people come watch us practice and see the way that we do things, it helps, because what you really want when you're trying to take a late round guy or a free agent is you want a guy that's going to practice. And so when people, we had one scout come in and said, man, you guys are the second hardest practicing team I've seen in college football. And I had him tell the team that, right? Because I think sometimes they look at me like, why are we practicing so hard? Well, you know what? When a guy comes up and it's going to be 2 names, and he looks at a guy from the University of Nebraska late or as a free agent, he knows, hey, these guys know how to practice. So those are the things they kind of ask. If there's a guy I know, obviously they'll ask me some more things about guys. But the base thing is that, like, what's the football character learning? If it's a first-round pick, maybe more about, Coach, once he has some money, is he going to continue to love the game, or is he love the game just to make some money? And so those are the things people are asking me.
Did it bother you that he said you were the second hardest?
No, I knew who the first team is, and we'll catch them. Yeah, we'll catch him. But it's University of Georgia. Yeah, and that doesn't mean Alabama's not ahead. That's going to go viral. I'm going to have all these fan bases yelling at me. I'm just saying what another person said of the teams he's seen. But I know how Georgia practices. And that's, it's been great to have MJ here to tell our guys, like, hey, on Thursdays when we come out, guys, in baseball caps and we walk through, they're in shoulder pads and helmets. So this whole, like, coach, coach, like, we're a little beat up. Yeah, there's a cost. There's a cost to doing things that you haven't ever done before. And it's practice, man. So, I am not saying we're the second hardest practicing team. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying a scout said that, and I had him say it to the team. But again, it's just the ethos out there of, like, you want people to know, like, hey, this is what a Nebraska guy is. Like, you come into a team meeting, and if you don't have a pen in your hand, or you come into a meeting and you don't have a pen in your hand, you're out. Like, you're not in the meeting. So, like, when we have guest speakers come in to talk about life skills or something, they see all of our guys with pens and pads. They're like, what is this? Well, it's because I had a guy come in one time and say, Matt, I go to other teams and they take notes and your guys don't take notes. And I was like, man, I'm failing these guys because they're going to be taking notes someday at Google. They're going to be taking notes someday at the Washington Commanders. They better take notes here. So everything we do is to design to help them be pros in life or in football.
This week looks like it's going to take a turn weather-wise for, like, more late-season Big Ten weather. With the situation that you're facing offensively, how do you wrap your mind around what you'll need to do and how prepared you are now to do that and play the kind of football that's best when it's 45 degrees and chance of snow?
Yeah. We put the whole thing together saying, hey, there's going to be days that are really cold and windy. When we went to Illinois, it was freezing. It was freezing. Like, I had the Gatorade thing, but I can promise you there was chicken broth inside the Gatorade thing, okay? The wind is a factor every single game. Because we're technically as a you talk about sign stealing, we're on the visitor side. So we show our signals every single play to the other team's coaches up in the box, right? Like, it's not the best sideline to be in on the visitor side. We have the sun in our face. The sun in the first quarter on 2:30 games is a real factor for punt returners. So there's all these things I've had to kind of learn about our home stadium. Hey, what's the sun look like? What's the wind look like? All these different things. So, but we put everything together with the hope of it would allow us to win cold weather games. It would allow us to win windy games. It's why in the spring, when you go out in spring football and it's 27 degrees and it's windy, we never practiced in the indoor. Like, we always practiced outside because we don't have any dome games this year, save the Big Ten championship game. So we might as well practice outside. So we've prepared for all those things. But the big thing is, again, as I said, there's a standard. We got to execute and perform at that level when it comes. Because cold weather, guys in Purdue are used to cold weather too, I'm assuming, right? I mean, I think Indiana's cold too. So, we're all going to have to play through it. It's just going to come down to who executes and plays well.
One thing that it kind of changes this year, and I know you're new to the Big Ten, but there was always a prohibition on November night games, although that's kind of been some hit and miss over the years, but not a ton. With the new TV contract, there's no prohibition on night games in the Big Ten in November after the first week. So I just what's your take on that? I mean, it gets pretty cold in these parts. Is that at all, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've learned when it comes to those kind of things not to worry about the things I can't control. Like when Trev told me, like, hey, Illinois got moved to Friday night. I know it's a short week. If I could have picked, I probably wouldn't have done that, right? Like, they gave me the full week. But I was like, okay, we'll play it. Well, when we won the game, and I'm sitting home Saturday, and I'm like, hey, I get to watch my daughter play volleyball, and the guys got to rest another day. I was like, hey, this is pretty good. So, I don't spend a lot of time worrying about those things. And again, like, when I was in the NFL, we were never really in it down the stretch. But if you're in it down the stretch, you're probably going to be playing on some, like, Sunday nights, right? You're probably, if you're a good team in the NFL, you're going to play on Monday night, Sunday night, Thursday night. You get used to playing at night. So, I think if we could, as things move on, having a night game here at Memorial Stadium in the cold, with the way our fans show up and the light shows and the things that we have going on, I'll take that. I'll take that. I'd play every game in the snow if I could, because we're here. We live here. This is what we are, right? I'll play every game in the wind. And that's because we should be able to throw the ball in those elements. We should be able to play defense in those elements. We should be able to kick in those elements because, we grew up, there's a benefit to having a punter from Montana and a kicker from Omaha, right? Like, there's a benefit to having guys, like Alvano. I don't know if anybody noticed in the pregame. Anybody see what happened in the pregame? He hits the upright on the extra point in pregame. So he stands there afterwards, and he's out there. He's like, I got to get another one. You know, he's being a freshman. I walked over him. I said, did you need 2 tries when you kicked the game winner in the state championship? Get your butt off the field. And he goes out and he nails a 47-yarder. Like, there's a benefit to having guys from this part of the country and knows the quarterbacks from Kearney, the punters from Montana, the kick. Like, let's let it win.
One more.
You made a mention of it earlier. Have you thought about switching sidelines?
Like in season, you're saying? Oh no, moving forward. I don't know what's, you know. I mean, I don't know what all the things that, like, I got here. My one goal was like, don't do anything that, like, don't change anything that Tom Osborne did, right? So like when they said, hey, we're going out the new tunnel walk, I was like, oh, hold on now. And Trev was like, no, it's okay, I got it. So, but when I first got here, you know, I know there's a lot of things with the stadium. Those things will all come and go as we go, but you know, I don't know what'll be up to me and what'll be not. The great thing about having Trev as the AD is there's all the visionary stuff I don't have to get super involved in. I'm in like the day-to-day, hey, what do we got this week? And you know, and he's always, if it helps us win, it'll help us. That, you know, when I say that about this, all that, I just think we always know, hey, people can steal our signs because they can see what we're doing. Whereas last week, Northwestern, our press box guys, if they're looking down at them, they have a sheet over them and you can't see them. So I don't know what they're in, but they know what we're in, right? So we're running a run play into will free safety, and our quarterback has to make an audible, but someone who has our signals can just look from the. So that's football. All I'll say is, you know, why don't we just put a thing in the helmet moving forward and give me an iPad on the sideline, you know, and let me go, you know. So I see it at high school games. We should probably have it in college, the technology, and I think that'll happen hopefully over the next couple of years now. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.